Alright, let's try this again. Last night I tried to make this video about 100 times and it just didn't work out. I wasn't feeling great at the time. I was exhausted. Just crappy week, let's just put it that way. But I'm going to try it now. I remember everything from the episode, so it's not exactly it's a first reaction still, but nonetheless. Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm the Immortal Cave and samitrust.blogspot.ca. As usual, there is a link to my blog in the description. Now, this is for the episode called Into the Dalek. This is the first episode we've had where it's the 12th Doctor isn't going through regeneration sickness. He's 100% renegade Time Lord, to quote Peter Capaldi. And this is the first episode where we've seen how he is normally. At least 100% through the episode, at least. This is one of the more interesting Doctors I think we've encountered. Like, his story so far seems to be a lot based on his morality and how he is, and how he's reacting to it. Now, that's the interesting part, is how much of this depends on how he's reacting to himself. That's interesting, because so much of it is, like the scene we've all seen, of Clara asking him, or him asking Clara, I should say, am I a good man? And her saying, I don't know. Now, I always figured that they were going to put such a huge emphasis on him being dark and just not caring. The problem is he does care, and that's what makes things interesting. The fact that he's finally starting to kind of deal with that fire, ice, and rage thing that the Doctors have had since the 8th, if we want to get technical. Really the War Doctor, but I'm going to say the 8th. And it's just very interesting seeing this finally kind of come to a head. Like, we saw a lot with Matt Smith and David Tennant, certainly. That whole dark side kind of creeping in and them feeling bad about it. But we've never flat out seen someone just try to deal with it. And that's interesting. I really like that, actually, because it makes things a lot more interesting. It makes it a lot more interesting to watch. Because we don't know what the Doctor's going to do, neither does he. Really. And that's fascinating. Past this, I'm just going to say spoilers. I'm going to put it as a title head in the video anyway, so. But for the record. Excuse me. Sorry about that, I was going to burp there. Never mind. Anyway. That question was asked at the beginning of the episode, the Am I a Good Man? And it's very interesting because he really does provide evidence on both sides. On one side, he does do his best to actually prove that there is a good Dalek. On the other side, he also more or less tricks a guy into taking a pill thinking it will save him, when it in fact was just so he could follow the remains of his corpse to the corpse hatch. That's pretty dark. I will admit, he's had a point when he said he was dead from the beginning, and there's nothing he really could have done to save him, so I figure, well, might as well take advantage of the situation. And that makes sense, but morality, that type of thing. But again, that's what this Doctor's about. And again, he also does try to prove and to change the mind of a Dalek as best as he can, to make sure that there is a possibility of a good Dalek, to try and change them. And I really like that. I like the fact that he openly tried to change and to test a Dalek to see if it could be good. I like that. I thought that was very interesting. Obviously this is a story where they shrink down and go inside the body of a Dalek. Now, I'm not too keen on the whole shrink down and go inside of Blank's body stories. They've just never really interested me. I just don't like that kind of story. From that perspective, at least, just because we already know what goes through most of the human body, and unless we're going inside of the brain, meh. Even a Dalek body, which I will admit was pretty interesting, that concept just didn't grab me. But when I say this is probably one of my favorite episodes to come out in a while, that says something. The fact that I don't even like the type of story, but I still love this episode. What I love about the 12th Doctor so far is the fact that his episodes have been so solid. Like, they've been brick solid. Like, I can't really find anything that's catastrophically or is anything less than nitpicking wrong about them. Now, there's still episodes I prefer. My favorite episode is still either Journey's End, one of the David Tennant two-part endings, because I love the 11th Doctor more than the 10th, but I'll say that right now is the 10th does have a lot more better finales. I'll say that easily. But anyway, and it's not one of my favorite. It's not my favorite episode, but it is really damn good. What else do we get here? Yeah, we get a lot more of this connection between the 12th and the Daleks, because not only is his ship the TARDIS, not only do we get to see more of that, like we get to see like a chalkboard with all these like mathematical equations on it, and that was very clever. I actually really liked that. But we also get like the walls look like they have the hexagons, which kind of look like the circles that the Doctor always used to have on them during some versions, at least. Excuse me. And except these ones are like bronze and they look almost Dalekian, or almost almost like Dalek material. And even some of like the little lights and everything have that kind of feel to it. So it's very interesting to see this connection between not only seeing more of the Doctor through the TARDIS, but seeing more of the Doctor through the Daleks. That's very interesting. And I actually really like that. I really like how that was done. I thought that was very clever. Because they never flat out say anything about the connection, but I think in some behind the scenes stuff they compared it to it. So that's interesting. I like that, actually. How are the Daleks handled in this episode? Well, nothing outstanding. Like the Prime Minister of the Daleks from Asylum was awesome. The Supreme Dalek from Victory was awesome. Davros, need I say more? The Cult of Skaro. Like, I love it when the Daleks have leaders. Same with the Cybermen, actually. Because it gives kind of a voice to the madness, so to speak. More than just, screaming exterminate as loud as you can. Now, granted, we did have one specific Dalek in this one. I believe the Doctor calls him Rusty. And that was interesting. But it wasn't the pure voice I was really looking for. I love it when there's a spokesperson, I guess would be the correct term. Because it just kind of focuses everything a little bit more, and it lets you kind of get more into their head. Again, especially with the Cybermen, I find that it works out very well. Mr. Clever was awesome because he was a voice to the Cybermen. Mercy Hardigan was awesome because she was a voice to the Cybermen. The Cult of Skaro, Davros, again, obviously. The Prime Minister of the Daleks, that's still a very strange term to use, but we're all really good because they gave a direct, clear voice to these villains. And, the Daleks, they were perfectly fine, but they just didn't have that voice, and I think that helps. More the Cybermen than the Daleks, but nonetheless, I thought they did fine. We also got to see Danny Pink, I think I'm getting his name right, played by Sam Anderson, and this is so stupid. When I was trying to record this last night, I was so half asleep I kept calling him Sam Wilson, who is the guy who plays the Falcon in Captain America 2. Oops. Samuel Anderson, This guy who plays, I believe it's Danny Pink, and he kind of reminds me of a cross between, not just because of his role, obviously, but he kind of reminds me of a cross between Mickey and Rory, because he's got that same kind of, except a lot more serious, I should state. So he's got that same kind of deal, but he's a lot more straightforward. But when you kind of see how he's mentally thinking of things and how he acts on his own, it's pretty comical, actually. I like this guy. He's like a more straightforward, serious, but still. How should I word this? Outward, he's very serious. Inwards, he's Mickey the Idiot. And I love that. Or Rory in general, I guess. And I love that. I really like this guy, but I am still. I'm not certain about how obvious they were kind of making his backstory. Have you ever killed a person? I was on one side of an army and there were people on the other side. You do the math. Have you ever killed somebody outside of the army? Doesn't say a word, starts very subtly crying, though the camera made it pretty obvious. Do you get it? He's crying. So, I thought that could have been done a little bit better, but at the same time, we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to make any judgments yet, of course, because we've only seen about 3 minutes of him. But I'm intrigued nonetheless. Also, I would like to point out that it is that first image I ever saw of him was the internet's reaction to everybody constantly just showing pictures of him and having, is he a companion, is he whatever, which was the Samuel Anderson, Spam Anderson, and it's just a bunch of them. It was on Facebook, it was funny, I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, Clara in this episode I think was very interesting because it shows more of her relationship with the 12th, and how much I'm really starting to like these two, because they don't get along that well, like 11 and Clara did. 11 and Clara got along incredibly well because of how they mentally were. They got along extremely well. They argued here and there, but they genuinely got along very, 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 very well. And that was fine for what it was. These two do not get along that well, but they're still friends. And that's, I don't know, I find that very fascinating. And they play off each other very, very well. Like, just about as well as Matt and JLC did. So, I like this. I like the formula. I like the everything about it, really. So, am I excited for the next couple episodes? Of course I am. And, well, I would have been regardless. But so far, it's just been boom, boom. It hasn't been getting better like I was saying that Series 7 was. In hindsight, it was more kind of like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But that's aside the point. It's been solid, though. It's been consistent, and I like that. It's been consistently very good. This might end up being one of my favorite seasons. We're 2 episodes in, so take that with as much salt as you want to. But I'm very intrigued where this is going. We had another visit from Missy, and another character who died and then went to wink, wink, nudge, nudge heaven, which I'm very curious where this is going, but it's also a very strange subject to be going on. Like, the Doctor once made that one comment. I was there during the original Easter, and it was completely different than what everybody else thought. What happened was, and then he just gets cut off. That was cute. When you get too much into religion, sometimes it can cause some people to become a little uncomfortable with it. And, yeah, it's a science fiction series. Take that as you will, but it's something, sometimes some people can get a little sensitive about it. If they're very religiously forward and whatnot. I remember that one guy who complained about the baptism scene in Bioshock Infinite and got his money back, which is remarkably stupid, but that's aside the point. Here's my point. Am I looking forward to this? Yes. Am I looking forward to where the story's going? Yes. Am I looking forward to the next episode to see how the 12th Doctor and Clara are going to get along? Yes. Am I looking forward to seeing more of the villains? Yes, because we do know that the Cybermen are coming back as well. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more villains as well that are just coming back. And it's going to be very interesting to see. Also, one more thing I want to point out before I head off. There was one guy on the internet who made a theory that the character saying what was the line? Something like, I see into your soul, Doctor. I see beauty, divinity, hatred. So one guy kind of detected that and went, this is definitely Davros. This is why he's coming back. ... And then, of course, not even close. In fact, it was Rusty saying that, as the Doctor called him. So, to that guy, sorry, I kind of wish it was Davros, too. For what it's worth. Anyway, I wish I could remember the guy's name, but I can't. So, anyway. Was there anything else? I'm just trying to think now. Not that I can think of. The next one might be a couple days late. I might not even have a review for Robots of Sherwood, or Robot of Sherwood, whatever the hell it's called. Because I am working that night. I'm going to see if I can maybe get it switched, the schedule switched around, or trade shifts with somebody, or if I can't just get the episode online a couple days later, or whatever. Online on PSN. Cough. But I'll see what I can do, but it might be a little late. It might not happen, and I might just skip to the next episode. If that's the case, I'll probably look up a general, like this is what the important shit that happened, just so I don't get lost. But other than that, meh. Anyway, that's about it. I might have another video ready. Probably won't be for a while, but there's something else that I've been planning on talking about for a very long time, and I don't think I can do it justice with a written review, so we'll see how that's going to go. But anyway, as usual in the Immortal K, have a good day, everybody, since I'm uploading this at friggin' like 5 o'clock. Well, have a good rest of the day, I should say at least. But anyway, have a good one, guys. Can't seem to find where the stop button is on this thing.